Let's get some therapy.
My name is Jerry Wise, and I want to talk about 8 ways narcissistic parents destroy their kids' ability to communicate. And that means when they become adults, and it also means even as children. Narcissistic parents do have a detrimental effect on children and their communication skills because communication is a complicated thing. It's not just talking, it's feeling, thinking, talking, confidence, self esteem. There are lots of things involved in communicating in a healthy way. And I'm going to talk about 8 of those things that we can take a look at. First of all, a lack of empathy. In narcissistic homes, and for the narcissist, there is no empathy. Narcissistic parents struggle to empathize with their children's emotions and perspectives, and in that lack of empathy, they hinder open and honest communication. And so what happens is then the child doesn't learn, and the adult continues in the struggle of open and honest communication because they've been taught don't do that. So empathy has a real impact on children and on how we communicate.
Now, based on what the counselor said there, reflect on the 2012 journal that I'm going to show in the next segment, where I break this down in a journal that I wrote in 2012. I identified this problem with both of us, and I said it stemmed from our parents and how we grew up. And I didn't even know anything about this narcissistic parenting abuse back then, but all praise be to the Most High for leading me down the path to help my family overcome this curse of unhealthy communication and just narcissism and just being a self-centered, egotistical, sociopathic, unhealthy person with unhealthy communication. Let's break the curse.
We need empathy to communicate. Second of all, invalidating feelings. Narcissistic parents dismiss or invalidate feelings of their children, and we as children fear negative consequences or punishment for expressing our thoughts or feelings, and then it leads to self-censorship. Then I start shutting down those systems because I don't want the consequences of sharing those things. Guess what? We become adults. Those systems have not been restarted. One thing I would recommend is take a look at the online program in the description, Your New Road to Self. And that is a program to help you restart those systems. And I think that's very important. Number 3, fear of repercussions. If you communicate openly, honestly, neutrally, your feelings or your thoughts, bad things are going to happen. Number 4, role reversal. Narcissistic parents may expect their children to meet their emotional needs, reversing the typical parent-child dynamic and inhibiting the child's ability to express their own needs. So then that system is shut down, which is expressing my own needs in an appropriate, child-appropriate, or adult-appropriate way. That system goes offline. And then what do? Then we are adults and we have a heck of a time trying to do that. And children have a difficult time expressing those things. We need to be able to absorb in a positive way with love and nurturance what the child is learning and growing and experimenting with in terms of feelings, thoughts, because that's the school of communication, is growing up in our families. There's also other influences, maybe church or mosque or school. There are other influences that can be there, which is good. But the home is a pretty important one for learning to communicate well. And role reversal doesn't help communication. When I've talked to adults who grew up with narcissists who did role reversal with them and they were parentified, it's interesting how, as adults, they talk like parents and they talk like caregivers, and they talk like overfunctioners. You can just hear it in the language. If you're attuned to it, you can just hear that's just how they communicate, because that's how they learned how to communicate. Overfunctioning, taking care of, fixing, advice giving. They can't just talk from themselves. Those systems are shut off. The self systems are shut off. They've clicked on the button other, and self is not clicked on. Number 5, gaslighting. Narcissistic parents might engage in gaslighting, where they manipulate the child's perception of reality. This can confuse and erode the child's confidence, and we need confidence to be able to communicate. And if you don't have that confidence, you're just going to distance, you're going to avoid, you're going to communicate in that avoidance, distancing kind of way. They've also shut off the system of, I see my reality and I trust it. That's been shut off, because the narcissistic parent will say that's not reality and that's not the way things are. So you just shut that off because you don't want to get punished. You don't want to, you can't press your case because nobody's standing there as an advocate for you. And even the spouse of the narcissist can be very worried about being an advocate for their child.
And that's even worse in today's single parent dominated homes or single mom homes, where someone has just completely decided that they are the single sole parent, the sole everything, sole decision maker, sole, just the universe revolves around this one person. And it's an ultimate failure in the long run. But let's get back to the therapy.
Number 6, insecure about what I should say. And again, because of some of these other things, I'm not sure what to say. I don't know what to say. I haven't practiced what is appropriate to say. And so I have people come to me all the time and say, I don't know how to communicate this. Do you know what's interesting? Is I oftentimes say, I know you already know how to communicate and communicate this well. It's these other systems that are shut off, which is why you say, I'm not sure how to handle this. Because I would say, okay, if there were no guilt, repercussions, no narcissistic parent, nothing bad is going to happen to you, what would you say and what would you do in this situation? 95 to 98% of the time, they've got it right. So they already know it. It's just these other switches are on. Fear the consequences. Your reality is not real. You don't have any confidence. You're probably wrong. It's just because those switches are shut off. Training and help and self-differentiation helps you begin to click those switches back on, so that you can communicate well. Because people often can do that. They'll come up with things that would be better than what my answer would have been. And I'm a neutral party or objective, but they'll come up with some great things. And I'm going, did you hear what you just said? You just answered your question. It's just you switched off all those other things that made it cloudy and uncertain. Because you had all those switches turned on when you were growing up. We need to turn those off. 7, when I should share feelings, I share thoughts. That's one of the things that we learn growing up in a narcissistic or dysfunctional home. I share feelings when I should be sharing thoughts. And then, of course, the corollary to that is I share thoughts when I should be sharing feelings. Number 8, when I should think more, I feel more. When I should feel more, I think more. And we get those confused growing up in a narcissistic home. Getting those rebalanced, getting the gyroscope and the GPS rebalanced can help us know, when do I share feelings and when do I share thoughts? Because if you can leave and learn that skill, that could be life-changing. So I hope you'll join me. I've got workshops that are going on, and I hope you'll take a look at those on the website.
And I'll close out there. A lot to learn here. But this really reflects on what I said in the 2012 journal: lack of empathy, and basically the role reversal. Growing up in the single parent, the child ends up taking on some uh, uh, an out of order position. Like in my home, I somehow became my mom's like husband, and I should have just been her son. But and then your father's household, you and your sister kind of turned out to be your mother, when you guys should have just been daughters. And you took the position of your mother, and then you felt like your mother abandoned you. And it's probably how my sons feel, and how Jaden feels at her house right now too. She feels fatherless, and you know, they're probably hearing things like, "Oh, the new thing that these single moms are saying these days are, I'm your mom and your dad too," which is absolutely just ridiculous and so unhealthy and toxic. But I'll close out.